a comparison between starting a new business versus joining RainBNB Decentralized Community Building CHAMA, right? So we are going to look at it in somehow from a broad perspective, and also try and see how we can compare that to RainBNB and how powerful RainBNB is as a tool, or rather as a financial transformational tool, right? So we'll start with the first comparison, or the first topic of discussion, which is the harsh economic reality in Kenya and Africa. Okay, so Kenya's SMEs crisis between the year 2024 to 2025, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, over 75% of SMEs or MSMEs in Kenya collapse within the first either year or 2 years. All right. So in 2024 alone, more than 1.2 million Kenyan businesses had shut down, primarily due to taxes, poor access to credit, inflation, and economic instability. Rising youth unemployment, which is approaching 70% in some counties, right? We're still talking about Kenya, has made job creation through entrepreneurship almost impossible. But even that, the cost of living has also surged to over 20%, while incomes remain stagnant or are falling. In cases where you'd hear, maybe let's take for an example, maybe house managers, where we had a standard rent amount, not rent but salary amount, which was about roughly from 12,000. Now, because of the economic state, no one would actually pay a house manager that kind of money. They would rather opt to pay them less, which is from about 8,000 going down to even about 5,000 shillings a month. Now you tell me, is that really sustainable for someone who is working for you at your house? At the same time, he or she has a family, and maybe at the end of the day, he has to leave his place of work, which is your home, and go back to his or her place of residence. Now, when you account for all those expenses, it becomes very hard or a big challenge for them to be able to sustain themselves even while they are working for you. So it doesn't make any sense at all. So with a wider African economic snapshot, across sub-Saharan Africa, 9 out of 10 businesses never scale. I'm sure some of us have had an experience or test in opening a business and having it not scale in terms of bringing in profits to be able now to grow the business and expand even further, simply because the turnout or the turnover is very small, or the margins are very, very minimal to make any much difference. Remember, you also need to pay rent for that space. You have to buy new stock. You have your own personal expenses you need to cater for, and all sorts of things. So when you account for all those expenses or costs, it doesn't really make sense for you to keep or sustain that business any longer. And that is why businesses fail within the first or 2 years, even months at that. Because sometimes, yes, you might have a good business idea, but where you go and set the business up becomes another tricky situation, because you need clientele base, and you cannot only rely on walk-ins. That therefore you must capitalize on online businesses in order for you to make or to cover those margins. So the informal sector dominates over 80%, but lacks support, structure, or sustainability. This is a whole comparison of the traditional way of doing business vis-a-vis or compared to or versus decentralized platforms or digital ways of investing and making returns. So the traditional entrepreneurship is very high risk, capital intensive, and it's also very slow when it comes to reward. Because assuming you start a business today, before you can actually realize a profit, you need about not less than 6 months before, one, the business gains momentum, Number two, you start getting walk-ins or rather clients from different places, depending on, of course, your avenues of marketing, and many other aspects that will really slow the growth or the momentum of growth of your business. That is basically how traditional businesses work. They cannot scale much quicker than you expect them to. It actually takes time, and that's why people usually give it a span of a grace period of about six months to a year. If it doesn't peak or not able to scale from there on, then that is not the business for you. You'll only be running into losses each month, because all the time you'll have to go back into your pocket to facilitate things like paying salaries, paying rent for the location, and so many factors. So in short, millions are trapped in cycles of start, fail, start again. Yeah, which is very draining in terms of family savings and future dreams. So you cannot keep failing on a business and then you keep reinvesting into it only to fail again, and then you come back and say you don't give up, you only keep pushing until it stands. Sometimes you have to give up because the effort itself is draining not just you, but the resources of your family. So most companies struggle to compete and actually eventually end up dying slowly, only just because of the sake of trying to stay afloat. Right? So on to the second one, we have the mirage of traditional businesses in Africa. Now, starting a business is very admirable, but for millions of Africans, it's financially suicidal. Right? So let's take a look at that as well. Yeah, so back on the mirage of traditional businesses in Africa. So we'll start with the first factor and look at how traditional businesses in reality are facing these challenges. So the startup capital for a good business is not less than between $500 to $3,000 on average. This is often borrowed with interest if you're taking a loan from a bank or from an individual. Perhaps maybe you do not have enough to cover the cost of starting that business. Therefore, you seek help or assistance from outside, which now definitely has to return with some sort of interest or additional profit on top of that. So the profit timeline, like I had mentioned earlier, is about from 6 months to 18 months. If at all, it's meant, or rather they're looking at realizing any gains between that period. So the next one is the regulatory hurdles, which are high taxes, licenses, local government interference, and many others. I'm sure some of us who have opened businesses either in Nairobi CBD or even in the outskirts, where we're in residential areas, basically. And you may have all the required licenses to operate that specific business, but still you face those county askaris coming to your premise and still asking you for, something small. That is how corrupt businesses, or rather the corrupt institution manipulates or makes it difficult for businesses to operate, because any small profits they make all goes to pay these corrupt officials. Now, the market saturation, which is the next one. Well, there's too many Me Too businesses. Like an example is M-Pesa shops. We have boutiques. With M-Pesa shops, we have countless of them. So that means we are basically dividing the clientele base. So assuming maybe if you were the only M-Pesa shop within maybe a distance of about 1 kilometer or so, that would make you monotony and therefore a bit more profitable as compared to where you have many other shops, or maybe 5 or 6 different M-Pesa shops within that same area of about one kilometer radius. It becomes very hard to even scale and probably even pay the person you have hired to watch over your business. We also have boutiques, we have salons, which are opening up almost everywhere, in every corner or every residential area. Not just the CBD, but in even in estates, we have seen instances where we have boutiques, we have not kinyonyi, but kinyozis, which are barbershops. And it becomes also a challenge for them to be able to scale in terms of the clientele base, because the market has been saturated with many businesses of the same type. Okay? So the next one is risk of failure. Over 75%, this is Kenya. We have, or rather we lose almost 75% of businesses that have either opened in a period of 1 year or even less, simply because of the challenges they encounter within that same period. And for Africa, that's about 90% across all of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, scalability, which is the next one, it's basically with these companies or traditional businesses, they are limited to geographical locations and capital, simply because they are digital businesses. They are traditional businesses and not able to scale into the traditional space. This is also affected by how do I put it? It's affected by how basically you think. Because if you do not think of avenues on how you can digitize your business, it becomes a challenge for you now to scale into profits, simply because you're limited to that specific jurisdiction or that geographical location. Then finally, we have support systems. In traditional businesses, we have very minimal mentorship or community support, simply because this is an individual's institution and therefore it is of no benefit to the rest of the community. And thus becomes another big challenge. Right, so we proceed. So let's enter onto the third topic, which is RainBNB Decentralized CHAMA, Africa's digital wealth engine. It's a digital capital that will save your company or your business, because everybody else does not understand it, because the mainstream has also not yet embraced crypto. So that means you get to be among the first people to do so. And these are just basically some of the ways, in comparison to the traditional businesses, on how you can easily scale if you digitize your business. And why is that? So this is because the elite that run the world want to be the first to own and control this, the market value of these assets, since they cannot print more money. You know, this is not like fiat currency where you can go to De La Rue and tell them, listen, we need you to print like 100 million shillings or 1 billion shillings and so on and so forth. This also happens while they distract you with narratives only meant to profit their selfish motives. So how are they able to distract you with such narratives? One, they either use mainstream media. They get someone like a CEO of Fortune 500 companies, or what I'd refer to as the big 7 companies. An example is Apple, Microsoft, and the likes. There are many other big, the Magnificent Seven. That's a word George uses. I forget the second name, but I will remind it later. Yeah. So while they control the narrative through mainstream media, they get to accumulate these assets and store it for themselves, because as they accumulate them, it creates what we call scarcity of assets. Now, through that scarcity and with the increased demand, that means now the value of those assets rise. And therefore, when you are now going to purchase these assets, it becomes a bit more expensive for you when you're purchasing it at a later time, because the big boys have come in, bought as much as they could using their capacity, and now they leave the market very hard or tough for people to participate in, simply because the cost is very high to engage, right? So here we have a tool, a digital tool, that challenges the status quo as it aims to financially liberate Africa through community building awareness campaign. So RainBNB Decentralized CHAMA is a tech-powered, blockchain-driven cooperative economic model designed to, one, remove barriers to entry into the digital space. Because with the blockchain technology, you are not required to provide any personal information. You do not necessarily have to provide an email address. You do not have to give any additional data about yourself to anyone at any given time, unless you are dealing with a central entity. Now, an example of a blockchain central entity is an exchange, a centralized exchange. One of the fine examples of a centralized exchange is Binance. Binance is the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and therefore they have to be centralized and licensed, because they're dealing with the conversion or trade of crypto and fiat currencies. Remember, fiat is centralized, and therefore it's controlled by governments. What that means now is, for an exchange or company to trade in government assets or fiat currency, they must be licensed, right? Now, so besides that, everything else now becomes decentralized, in the aspect that you do not have to provide any information to any given person, especially with RainBNB, simply because it is a decentralized entity or tool or smart contract in simple terms, and therefore everything you own through it becomes yours and yours alone. At no way can the government interfere or come between you and your assets, because you're no longer dealing in any fiat or centralized currency. So the next one is, it offers instant income, in the sense that with RainBNB, it's a community building initiative, and therefore it is a CHAMA. And what happens with CHAMAs is that people come together to contribute money to each other, either for specific cause or any individual or personal reasons. Now, when that happens, with the traditional way of doing it, things were more of done the analog way, in the sense that you'd have to register your name, your ID number, your place of stay, and many other things, probably even an email address and the likes. But with RainBNB's digital space or tool, you only need to download an application. This application is a wallet. This wallet will allow you to join the RainBNB community and also participate in the continuous gifting through the community building initiative. What this means is, when you join RainBNB or become an active participant or member, you are required to come in with a specific fee, a starting amount. This is the only fee you're going to be asked out of pocket. Utairudi tena uulizwe ati sasa you need to go back into your pocket to pay what we call a monthly fee or renewal costs or things of that sort. No, never, ever. Everything you use to contribute continuously into this community is gotten through the contributions you also receive from the people you get to invite into this digital CHAMA. It's as simple as that. And the cost is very, very minimal. It's only 0.045 BNB. 0045 BNB. That's roughly about 2.7 to 3.2, $3.4. In conversion to Kenyan or local currency, that should cost you about 400, 450 bob. Sometimes it could go up to 500 or 550, 600. This is simply because of the volatility of these assets we are using. They are cryptocurrencies, and therefore they are very volatile in nature. That's just one of the main characteristics that define cryptocurrencies. But not all cryptocurrencies are volatile, because we have stable assets which are simply tied to the US dollar, therefore making it, or one of those assets, an equivalent to $1. So therefore its value never fluctuates very heavily or as much as other cryptocurrencies, right? So remember, after you have joined to participate in our CHAMA, what happens is the person who, or rather you need to have a link for you to participate in this digital space. Therefore, when you are provided with a link, the cost that you're going to use to join RainBNB is simply gifted to the person who has invited you. So at no point is the fund or the joining cost or fee taken to any central entity or authority. Apana, never works like that. What happens is a fraction of it, about 70%, is what is given to the person who invited, and then now the remaining 30% goes to his pool fund. His pool fund is like a SACCO, or what we refer to here locally as SACCOs, simply because a pool fund is where they collect those gifts, and then it is distributed back to you wholesomely once you achieve specific prestigious ranks. Now remember, each rank or each level, because we have several levels, meant to pay you differently through the community. This is no central entity or company. Please, you need to understand that. Hapa hakuna cha kampuni. So there's no one who controls your funds at any given time, except the smart contract that simply just distributes those funds from one wallet to another. And besides that, there's a pool fund that is put in for you to give, rather to benefit you as you're participating in this community building initiative. So you're not only just getting contributions from the community, you're also as well saving up for a future benefit, which you can use either to build a home, an estate, buy a car, travel abroad, or go for holiday and things like that, and do so many other things, right? So all this is eventually to the benefit of the whole community, not individuals, but the whole community. So that is why RainBNB is community driven, not individual driven. So if you have any selfish or personal agendas, it may be hard for you to scale with RainBNB simply because you need everyone's assistance, right? So the next one is creating long-term financial resilience. Now, through this long-term financial resilience, you also get rewarded from that pool fund that has been accumulating throughout your participation in RainBNB. So that is very, very powerful. And then finally, we build a digital community wealth at scale. That means now we move beyond borders. We now stretch beyond or further than Kenya and cover the whole of the African continent, because our aim or our agenda is to empower all Africans financially. Even as we create awareness and push this campaign even further, we aim to liberate everyone. No one gets left behind. So how does this work? Very simple. I'm pushing this campaign to do about 1.5 million free activations funded by RainBNB's growth pool. Now, the members who will be coming on board will, of course, be activated at a cost of 0.0045 BNB per successful referral. This operates through BNB smart contract, which is very secure, very transparent, because it is blockchain based, and it is also traceable. When something is blockchain based, that means every information, all that money you're making or receiving or gifting, is made public, and therefore it can be easily easily accessed through the blockchain ledger and smart contract. Then we have funds that are distributed peer-to-peer. Like I said, you need a wallet, And after you receive that wallet, you need to deposit the 0.0045 BNB. And then now you get the link from the person who has invited you in order for you to start gifting. Now, once you have joined, that means gifted the person who invited you. That's joining. It now makes you eligible now to receive contributions. So you'll also get your own link. Remember, this is a digital space. Hapa hakuna mambo tena ati ya kuitana pamoja, ati you come together, meet maybe in a house or a cafe somewhere or restaurant or even a meeting hall, and then now you start your contributions. No, everything now happens digitally. And for you to participate, you need a link of someone who is already in RainBNB. It's as simple as that. Digitization has changed and simplified everything. All right? Yeah, so once we do that, we create a peer-to-peer initiative where people are gifting each other funds directly. So once funds leave your wallet, either through upgrading into the next rank so that you can be gifted double whatever you're receiving from the previous rank, what happens is you now become eligible now to receive contributions from the rest of the community, either through the direct referrals or, sometimes you might have a huge community that it does not become necessarily for you anymore to keep inviting others because the community is growing organically. That's how powerful RainBNB is, because it uses what we call a force matrix, and therefore it forces people into your network so that you can work collectively as one and all of you get to benefit in the long run. So remember, RainBNB is also not a get-rich-quick scheme. Apana. Here you have to build a network, a community of real people who are gifting each other real digital assets, which can easily be converted through Binance Exchange into either your local fiat currency, which is either via M-Pesa, bank transfer, PayPal, or any option that you prefer. So structured around a CHAMA model, African group savings and wealth culture, but it is digitized and decentralized. So unlike our traditional CHAMAs or circles, where we must have a chairman, a secretary, and a treasurer who control those assets, and they can easily defraud us or embezzle those funds or mismanage our money. With the digital space, everything becomes public, decentralized, meaning there's no central entity that can mess up with your funds or tamper with it in any given way. And it is digitized, meaning everything happens on the digital space. Okay? And all this is done using a digital wallet or a Web3 wallet. Because with a Web3 wallet, it has its own browser, decentralized browser, not like the typical browsers we're used to, such as Mozilla or Google Chrome and the likes. With a Web3 wallet, you get a decentralized web, meaning you can search any application or website through it. Whether it's a legal website or illegal website, that's the beauty of decentralization. There's no barriers, rather, in what you can do in the digital space. So let's go ahead and look at head-to-head comparison between starting a business and RainBNB decentralized CHAMA. All right, so we have the metric, the traditional business, and RainBNB decentralized CHAMA. So we'll start with startup capital. Like from the previous discussion, or earlier on when I started, on point number 2, where we were looking at the challenges of starting a traditional business. Now we are doing a comparison between the traditional business, or a head-to-head comparison between the traditional business and RainBNB decentralized CHAMA. So the startup capital for traditional business would roughly cost you between $500 to $3,000. We're looking at a very good business here. Now with RainBNB, the fee is very small. Now this is aside from the free activations that I will be doing once our sponsors or investors or donors come through with the 7,000 BNB. But for those personal activations, for those who will be activating themselves on their own, you only need 0.0045 BNB, which is roughly $2.7 to about $3.2, $3.4. In conversion to your local currency, that's roughly 450, maybe 500 shillings. This also accounts for transaction costs, from M-Pesa to M-Pesa, and also buying or purchasing the asset. So the other one is time to income. Now, before you're profitable in traditional business, it will take you roughly 6 to 18 months for you to start realizing serious profits or margins in that business. Because remember, this is a new business. You need new clients, and you need to scale up your business by using social media platforms and the likes. But it is also not easy before people can actually trust your business or your product. It takes a lot of time. But now compare that to RainBNB. With RainBNB, it's same day. You do not require a license. You do not require a government permit. You do not require any person's permission, because this is a decentralized platform, and you also do not require to give any personal information. And therefore, also, with RainBNB, it is instant rewarding. Therefore, in simple terms, what that means, for every referral you onboard onto this digital CHAMA, you receive your contributions there and then. It's not a matter of until end of the month or until your business is able to scale. Apana. It does not operate like that. Simply because when people are gifting each other, or when you onboard someone, they are easily or simply gifting you that money. It's as easily and direct as that. So the next one is the learning curve. The traditional businesses, you require high business marketing and finances. A lot of marketing costs, because you will probably print things like flyers, physical flyers, which you'll have to distribute to people around the city or within that area where your business is located. And also, assuming maybe you want to digitize the business as well, or in this sense, maybe you want to do social media marketing, it's going to cost you a good amount of money. And it's maybe from about $5 going up. Now, $5 converting it, assuming, now this is $5 on a daily budget for your marketing, because those ads will run for about maybe 24 hours, and then now you will have to replenish your advertising amount, so that now it can also get to cover another day or week or even month, which becomes very, very costly. But now also as well, if you look at the turnout in terms of what the business has brought from the marketing, either digital or physically, it becomes a bit more. It doesn't make sense at some point, because it takes time and people have to keep seeing it over and over for it to make sense to them. Now with RainBNB, it's very low cost, and you only require basic digital skills. Very basic. You don't need to have learned about programming or digital marketing. Some of these things you can easily learn either from YouTube and YouTube tutorials, watch them, and you can easily start doing your own social media marketing through RainBNB. Also, again, remember, this is a tool that gets to benefit everyone. So it's not only benefiting the business owner, it is also benefiting you as a person who is also getting to participate in this initiative. It's very simple, it's very direct. So let's move on to the next one, which is risk. With traditional businesses, faces very high risk, very, very high risk. Such as what? Maybe a fire turns up or breaks out. That means all your stock burns or goes into flame. Assuming maybe even the location or the shop, you own it personally. That's also another loss. So that means you have to build another structure again. So that means you have to go back into your pocket or seek loan from either a bank or individuals, Shylocks, or wherever it is maybe even a SACCO, that you get such kind of support. That is risky, very, very risky. Another risk you may also face is the aspect of non-moving stock. That means whatever you have bought is still sitting idle, either in your storage or even in your shop shelves. Or even maybe if it's a restaurant or a kiosk or any type of business, your food can easily run stale simply because you have no clients to sell your food to. Okay, so those are some of the big risks you get, or you are looking to encounter if you invest in traditional business. Now with RainBNB, zero financial risk to join, simply because what you're doing is you are gifting someone else that money, and it's only a very small amount of money, which also in turn allows you or makes you eligible to also receive gifts from other people. It's as simple as that. Hapa ni nipe nikupe, ama vipi? Yeah, so the next one is failure rate. Now, as I started, I talked about the 75% business failures, or rather businesses that fail within a span of one year to 2 years of opening. Now, in comparison to RainBNB, there's virtually 0% and almost very small cap, very, very small. You'll barely even feel a pinch on that for you to get to join and participate in RainBNB. Also, there's no losses here. Why do I say this? With RainBNB, you are not required to just join the platform or the community and just sit idle. No, because all of us are looking for money, isn't it? So therefore, you're only simply required to talk to someone. You're not going to sell them a product or a service. No. You're only telling an individual of a tool that will enable him and you to gift each other money without any central interference, either from the government or banks or the CBK, and also allows you to receive more contributions from the larger community as you progress. This is a very, very powerful tool, I can tell you for sure. Virtually 0% risk. No capital, almost no capital. And if you account, of course, for the 1.5 million free activations that I will be doing across Africa, you can easily say no capital for them, because they're joining this initiative, excuse me, and they get to reap out of it simply by talking to people of the community or friends, family, and anyone they can approach. Tell them of this initiative and they get rewarded by that same person they're telling about RainBNB. So this is a very, very powerful tool if only Africans can open their eyes and realize the potential this thing has. So scalability. With traditional businesses, you're only limited to your local jurisdiction. Assuming maybe your boutique, you sell clothes, right? You have clients from Uganda, Tanzania, or maybe across the border, maybe any other country across the border within Africa. Now, it will present a challenge for you to try and sell them those clothes, because you will have to account for transport or the cargo costs, because assuming maybe you want to send it via bus or air, it's going to be very costly. It's not going to be cheap. Now, with RainBNB, it is digital, Pan-African, and global. That means you can access it from anywhere in the world. Whether you're an Eskimo living in cold, icy areas, or you're a nomad living in the Sahara Desert, you can easily access RainBNB, and you only need one thing: a digital smartphone. That's it. Now, with this smartphone, you will go into your Play Store or App Store, download a Web3 wallet. It can be either token pocket, it can be trust wallet, it can be MetaMask, it can be I've mentioned token pocket already. It can be SafePal and many other Web3 wallets. Ziko mingi. So you're not limited to any using any one specific Web3 wallet. But of course, you will have what we call a what's this? Phrases. Now these phrases will help you secure that wallet, which is more like your vault, your money vault, your digital money vault. You will store those phrases, which will be able now to allow you recover that wallet if, in the case, maybe your phone gets lost or stolen or some eventuality, right? So those are one of the ways how we can secure ourselves without relying on the central government fiat currency and simply grow through community building. So what's the impact? With traditional business, the impact is only personal, because you and me as a clients who visit that shop or restaurant or whatever business it is, we are taking our money to that entity. But are we in turn getting anything out of it? Of course not. We are only profiting the owner of the business. Okay? But now let's compare that with RainBNB. Now RainBNB is collective, it's a family, it's a CHAMA, and a community that is growing Africa-wide. And not just Africa, but also globally. If you do your research online and maybe try and find out a few more details about RainBNB, you will see the size or the magnitude of this community, not just in Africa or South Africa or Kenya alone, but also in countries like India, Pakistan, Nepal, also spreading out to China, Australia, USA, and South America in general. So it is a very powerful tool that we have neglected for a long time. And if we embrace it now, we can easily take ourselves to the next level. So the next one is earnings potential on a monthly basis. With traditional businesses, it is very unpredictable how much returns or profits you're going to make within that same month. And oftentimes, it is losses, especially if you are still within that grace period of 6 to 18 months of growth. You should not expect to make much profit if you're making any at all. But if you're not, it's definitely losses all through that period. So you need to have enough capital to take you through that said period. So in comparison to RainBNB, you can easily do even up to 1 BNB on a monthly basis, depending, of course, on how big your community building initiative is and how much drive you have yourself as well. Because at the end of the day, each person is money coming into your pocket. Each individual, that is money coming in directly to you. Remember, this is like a business, but you're not paying any rent, you're not paying any employees, you're simply gifting each other. So what loss is there? You have given out a certain amount. Now the people coming in to gift you are maybe 10 times over, 100 times over, even 1,000 people gifting you that same amount that you gifted someone else. Isn't that powerful? I mean, tell me a business that can gift you or give you that kind of return simply, simply by working together with a community. There is none. Because most businesses are individual based, and therefore that means it is only meant to make profits or benefit one specific person or group of a very small group of people. So then now what happens to the others or the rest of them? Exactly, nothing. So what's the long-term sustainability? Now with the traditional businesses, they are very limited and also capital based. So your growth capacity is limited either through your network or the people you know or the banks and circles you're associated with, And it is also capital based in the sense that you need money to keep that business running throughout. So that means you have to pay rent every month, whether you're facing losses or not. You have to pay staff every month as well, whether you're making profits or not. Also, you need to have your products, you need to have stock. Or if it's a service you're providing, you need to have the necessary essentials in order to keep that business alive. You also need to pay other bills like electricity, water, probably even feed your staff, maybe lunch or something, or even provide transport for them to and from work. So it becomes very hectic, a lot of pressure, and non-beneficial to you in the long run. So let's look at RainBNB. It's sustainable through network effect and digital growth, organic digital growth. Through what? The community. Not individuals, but the community. You need everyone. You cannot thrive on your own in this digital community driven initiative or platform. That's how powerful RainBNB is. All right, so we move on to the next one. So why RainBNB CHAMA is the right solution for Kenya and Africa. So let's look at the short-term benefits, and then we'll get into the long-term. So why RainBNB is the right solution? Number one is because immediate income with almost zero capital. Very small amount. Assuming you're not coming in with the 1.5 million free activations, you have now decided to onboard yourself from a personal level. And then now the cost, you will barely feel it. Because if you compare that to maybe what you're used to traditionally, the traditional CHAMAs, each time you come together, you must go into your pocket, give your contribution again. Each time. But with RainBNB, we say you only make a one-time contribution out of pocket. Out of pocket. The rest is simply from the contribution that you're getting from the community. You can use that to get into the next CHAMA group. What I mean is basically by upgrading to the next level. Upgrading is removing or contributing the amount required to participate in that higher CHAMA, which now gives you or allows you to receive back the same amount that you gave out from multiple people. Okay? So at no time are you losing anything. Remember, you only started with, assuming it's just $3, which is maybe 450 shillings. And now you're receiving gifts that allow you to get into other categories to now receive even more gifts. At the same time, what's happening is that a fraction of those gifts you're receiving is taken into a pool fund or a savings fund, which is now going to be given back to you once you get to those prestigious ranks. It's that simple. Out of just $3 alone can get you into crazy, crazy figures. The next one is it converts network into value. What this means is the people you are inviting into RainBNB are the value, because wanakuletea pesa. It's you they're coming to bring money. And not just you alone, because once they have gifted, now they are also eligible to receive gifts from other people they get to introduce into RainBNB. So it causes a whole community effect all around you. And that is what brings organic growth. Not just for you, not just for them, but for everyone within the RainBNB decentralized community-driven CHAMA. So also, it replaces job dependency and digital entrepreneurship. How? With RainBNB, like I said, this is a business as well. Because if you want to make money, you only simply need to refer. And anywhere where money is given for a specific reason, that is business. And that can easily replace your job dependency. I'm not saying people should quit their jobs to focus on RainBNB, apana. This RainBNB is also a supplementary way to give you a secondary source of income. You also have to look at it from a broader perspective. All right, so the next one is alleviates pressure on youth, single mothers, and jobless graduates. Now, this is a very, very powerful tool that many youths can take advantage of, especially if you're not employed or have no job at the moment, because you may not be employed, but you're self-employed or doing other businesses here and there to sustain yourself. But you can use RainBNB to take yourself to the next level. Use it as a tool to take advantage of the space, in the sense that you already may be engaged in businesses, or if you're not, you already have people in mind, or the community already there. We have an existing community. You have neighbors, you have a family, you have contacts on your phone book. That there is a community by itself, which you have not tapped into yet. Right? So there are many, many opportunities on how you can maximize and make the most returns through RainBNB, because these people are real assets, because they're coming on board with money, and that money is coming to be gifted to you. And besides that, there are many other benefits you're getting out of it. I have not even mentioned the other perks you're getting, or benefits or bonuses that you're receiving, besides the ones that you have onboarded people with, and that pool fund I have talked about. So there are many, up to I think 5 or 6 avenues on how you can easily bring or reckon that those money or funds directly into your wallet. Now kumbuka, this is money you can easily convert to your local currency through Binance Exchange, because what we're using here, or the coin, or the asset, the digital asset that we're talking about here, is BNB. Binance but Binance is the company that created BNB and released it into the blockchain ecosystem, and it now allows anyone and everyone to participate in it through buying on the P2P platform from Binance, or rather through their P2P exchange, which now you can send someone the M-Pesa and they can send you the BNB directly to your exchange wallet. From there, you can now withdraw to your external Web3 wallet and get to participate in RainBNB. It's very simple, very direct. If it's also a challenge for you to understand it, I have done tutorials on how you can onboard yourself directly from home. Assuming maybe you already have the Binance account and you have registered and filled out the KYC. The KYC is important because with this exchange, you are actually trading assets with people, and therefore they need to have proper information about you. Assuming, these are actual life trades, because you're changing or converting local currency into digital assets. And therefore, they need to identify you as an individual, know who you are. In case maybe you try and defraud someone on the exchange platform, they can easily cancel you or ban you from using that exchange. So it's meant to keep everyone safe, in short. So let's look at the long-term impact of RainBNB as being the right solution for Kenya and Africa. So the long-term effect is it builds a decentralized, tech-enabled cooperative, which is a CHAMA, that grows organically and exponentially. Now, Africa, we have a total population of about 1.5 million people. 1.5 billion, sorry, not million, 1.5 billion. I am only looking at doing 1.5 million free activations. Just a moment. I have gotten a pop-up notification from TikTok. I do not know why. They're saying they're detecting some illegal inactivity. I don't understand. Anyway, let's proceed. So the second one is expands across borders with Pan-African collaboration. Now, like I said, I cannot do this on my own. And of course, immediately once the donors and sponsors are able to, support this campaign with the 7,000 BNB that I require, I will have to seek collaboration with individuals from specific countries, train them, and be able, by the time I even get there, I am able now to penetrate the market easily and do the free activations throughout, because they would have by then mobilized the numbers that we require to do either on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to allow us reach the target of the 1.5 million free activations across Africa. So it's not going to be an easy task. Definitely I will need as many people who can support this initiative and campaign, either through gifts on TikTok. You can tap the screen, of course, to send those gifts, and many other ways. You can also support through the M-Pesa till number I have provided, or I provide on each, in the description box of each video I upload, which will also go a long way in supporting this campaign for us to create awareness of this tool that is powerful enough to give all Africans by financial freedom. Right? So the next one is it encourages savings, investing, and reinvesting in community projects. Now, remember, when people are making good returns or they're getting a positive impact of this initiative, it will enable us to grow locally, in the sense that we will be able to build bigger businesses, to thrive even more, and take us to the next level. Because we can easily advance when we have finance to support whatever missions or agendas we're trying to run to improve our communities. And through RainBNB, we can easily gain or make that kind of capital we require. So the next one is economic self-reliance driven from the ground up, not the top down. I believe most Kenyans know about the bottom-up economy. Broad-based. But is it really broad-based? Because if you and I are feeling the pinch of the economical crisis, who is it really benefiting? Is it you at the bottom or them at the top? It's definitely them at the top who are benefiting from this. But the idea with RainBNB is to start from the grassroots levels as we grow. Because, one, in the grassroots levels, that is where we have the numbers. Realistically speaking, those are the majority. And if we can simply improve their financial status, it will cause a major ripple effect up through that pyramid or that chain, from the bottom up. That's how powerful RainBNB is as a tool, or can be used if taken the right way, or if used the right way. It can empower as many, even more than 50 to 100 million Africans across Africa, if only people opened up their eyes and realized the potential this thing has. Right, so the last one is bridges the digital divide and brings Web3 access to the grassroots. Now, most of us do not understand what or how powerful decentralization is. Because, like I mentioned earlier, Web3 is a decentralized web browser or web tool that you can use to access platforms such as ours or our smart contract by simply pasting a link that has been shared to you by the person who has invited you, and you can easily access that platform. Now, in the case maybe where you try to access the RainBNB platform using the normal Web2 browsers we have, such as Chrome or Mozilla, it may be a challenge for you to proceed any further other than the web display. Simply because this is a decentralized tool, it's a smart contract that can only run on the blockchain space. And therefore, that service or that space has to be decentralized for this tool to be accessed. And that means you need to have a Web3 wallet for you to access our decentralized smart contract and be able to participate in this initiative. So the choice is very, very clear. In Kenya, starting a business might bankrupt you, and not just Kenya alone. I'm talking about Africa in general. But joining RainBNB might free you from those financial hurdles. It's that simple. Hapa hakuna rocket science.